Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Hope you guys are doing well.
Hi, you guys. Great to hear and see you. I mean, I don't really see you, but I know you guys are going to hear me.
Yes. So, we have videos of glowing spheres hovering over Brazil. And, okay, what's your impression on this? Because Cindy could, usually distinguish if something's mechanical or more alive.
That felt like it's emitting a healing energy.
Emitting a healing energy. So, we see numerous videos purportedly showing pulsating ball-shaped objects over the skies of Brazil have sparked a flurry of speculation about UFO sightings. Twitter was flooded with videos claiming to show the bizarre phenomenon in Maje, outside of Rio de Janeiro. In one of the clips, a gyrating blue sphere is seen floating above the city. The video was tweeted at Elon Musk. There are reports that something fell over there in a lake, but it doesn't seem to be a satellite, Andre DeMoro wrote. So he said, hey, Elon Musk, check this out. Is it one of your Starlink? Well, no, this is definitely not a Starlink. And then you have 5 spheres that were illuminated. And when you see them in a row, that makes you start thinking about the Starlink. But see, think about the programming. We're told there's going to be like 30,000 in the sky, so then we're going to be thinking everything is a Starlink satellite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will. I mean, it's like a perfect cover, really.
Yeah, which gets me thinking about Project Blue Beam, not Blue Book, Blue Beam, because everybody, you have these certain circles, and we've been put into these little blocks from our conditioning. So if you're more of a fundamentalist Bible believer that thinks there's going to be a literal Antichrist, automatically everything is going to be Project Bluebeam and fallen angels and demons, regardless of the original meanings of the words or anything, just because it's going to fit what your paradigm is, the paradigm you are expecting to see. So when we look at this and we look at it deep, we see that always, we're divided into groups. And then there's, those of us that have done research on every level and have looked at things mythologically, comparatively, looked at the different traditions all around the globe. And what do they say about, extraterrestrial beings? Well, as we've said, there's an overwhelming evidence and all around the globe, the belief in extraterrestrial beings that have been visiting here, beings that are, sometimes they're very, very humanoid, that you might think that they're regular humans. And the Bible itself, says sometimes people have entertained angels unaware. Really? Why? Well, because they look just like us.
Exactly, because they look like us. Maybe they have some extra abilities, but we're not really made aware of these things. But I strongly believe that there are different beings that come here and walk among us and might be able to do certain things, and for whatever reasons, to protect our human experience, they keep that to themselves.
Yeah, and so for me and for Cindy, it's not even a belief. It's more of a knowing through experience, because we've experienced things and we don't believe that we have hallucinated on hundreds of different occasions. I think that part of what happens when you are very open psychically, and when you're able to open up your pineal gland and have the kundalini rise, is you could experience a lot more things than somebody who has been drinking fluoridated water, eating GMO foods, and eating all sorts of sugar and garbage, lowering your vibrations. Those people won't experience things that people that are doing everything to keep your vibrations higher will experience.
Right. And, having the pineal open and kundalini and stuff might not mean what a lot of people think that it means. I mean, you might just have more of a knowing. You don't always need to see tangible things. You might just know that your information around you isn't accurate, and that right there shows someone with their third eye open.
And we see things differently. It's interesting because some of us see energy with our physical eyes more easy, and then others get very, very clear pictures with their third eye, and they are different. And sometimes I think that they overlap. they definitely overlap. Like, I was watching an energy pattern take shape in the hall, and Cindy has told you guys that, I mean, we've experienced weird stuff in this place, and it was clear to me, and it felt more like a nature spirit. And I got confirmation because Sassy was, kind of asleep, and then she, woke up and turned and looked exactly where I was seeing it. And then Zeke walked out and walked right into it, So the dogs knew it was there. Now, in that case, Cindy wasn't really so seeing it, but then there's other times when Cindy will see something clear as day, and I might just, get like a glimpse of an energy pattern. So everybody is a little bit different with their abilities, but there's a bunch of videos here. I'll let you guys play them. But when we look at this, to me, again, it looks like it could be a ball of plasma. So what is plasma? Well, plasma is life force. We ultimately, and all beings are basically made of this energy. So I basically blew this up. I think this is maxed. And this is what we see. And this is, again, very similar to something we've seen time after time after time. There was a whole bunch of sightings back in, I think it was 2018, in Kiowa Island, Charleston area, South Carolina, of an orange-shaped one. And I did a video on it talking about it, and then I got somebody in Texas say, I saw that, but it was a different color, and they sent a photo of what looks just like this one, where it was mostly white with some blue. The same thing. It makes me think of Ezekiel's wheels within wheels. So recognize, too, that the ancients, like if we're going to equate everything back to, the biblical days, which I know most of you guys don't. There's always, a few out there that will just say everything is a demon or what have you, and they don't even know that the word demon comes from daemon, which means nature spirit, and it's been changed. That was the Greek word. The perception of what the word means has changed, and again in certain circles, but this is how we've been basically put at odds and divided amongst each other. So when we look at this and we see something like this, I think it is more of a being than, but it could be a Merkaba at the same time, which is basically a vehicle for consciousness to travel through different dimensions.
Right, and I think whatever it is, its intention is to come and push out pulsing energy healing.
Right. So, the ancients were limited in their understanding of things. Like, they wouldn't know, exactly what would you necessarily call, a plane. What would you call it? It would probably confuse them if somebody, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Now, maybe if you go back 10, 12,000, then they would just, call them Brahmanas, because they had seen them all the time. But it's interesting to think of that. Like when we look at the Hopi prophecy, and they talk about cobwebs in the sky. So we could look up and say, well, that's just geoengineering underway. Yeah, and it's just how would you equate it? There's a lot of prophecies too. Mother Shipton and Nostradamus, describing things like tanks and describing, fiery missiles and things, and not knowing exactly how to describe it because they don't have the language that we do and the knowledge in the background. So, they use a different term. But when we look at everything that's going on here, so this is just, disclosure is underway. Will it be twisted? Oh, yeah, of course, because, who's in control of the world? And obviously, everything is going to have its twist to it. So here we see alien face on the moon. UFO expert claims sculpture is 100% proof of intelligent life. And let's see this. I don't think that's definitive, but I could see a face.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a face. It's kind of like I don't know, it's a little gnarly.
Yeah, it is gnarly and twisted. And there's been so many things that have been seen on Mars as well that are very, very anomalous. And also there was a report out in the last few days saying that the experts say there's no way there could be any life on Mars. But that doesn't mean there wasn't life in the past, I mean, it could have been. And, if you look at a lot of the mythology again, then life was there in the past. And perhaps that life came here. And here we see UFO sighting, question mark, absolute proof, and NASA photograph of a green UFO during the Apollo 7 mission. There's been so many things seen from the International Space Station, and here's a thing from Never a Straight Answer. By the way, do you know that there's a section of the Grand Canyon where there's artifacts that are completely anomalous according to sources, Tibetan and Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon, and you know who owns it? It's cordoned off because NASA has it, because they're not going to give us a straight answer. They are hiding the truth. They are not trying to give us the truth. And here you see aliens need some privacy. Video claimed to be showing a UFO ship entering a volcano base emerges online. And this is the Mount Hood volcano, and there's a video here. You can see it just kind of go whoosh. And of course, that gets me thinking of Mount Shasta and Telos. And, there's a lot of different extraterrestrials and interdimensionals out there. And then we see this. This is, again, a new study that just came out. When we find aliens, they might not breathe oxygen. They might be breathing hydrogen. And what would a crystalline life form, be like? Or some other type of life form? Life is abundant out there. And of course, we have all the newly released details of the UFO Navy's encounters, which are drones. And, I'm suspicious about these because these very well may be ours, because I think our true level of technology is at least 100 years ahead where we think it is. So they can pull a lot of stuff out and get us thinking it's, aliens if they want to, because the majority of the population will be totally blown away by the technology.
Oh, they totally will, and they'll be wondering, what the heck? What do I believe now?
And then we see this. U.S. Navy laser creates plasma UFOs.
Things that make you go,
So talking about that first thing that we were looking at, well, it does look like a ball of plasma. Mm-hmm. It does, right? Oh, wait a minute here. Okay, and so here you see Pentagon scientists are making talking plasma laser balls for use as non-lethal weapons. Say what?
What?
Right?
Yeah, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, talking lasers and endless flashbangs. There's videos for you guys to look at too. So instead of beaming a flashing light or shouting over a loudspeaker to keep people away from sensitive areas, new technology being developed could allow troops to fire a laser that can form a plasma ball that talks to potential intruders.
Wow.
Can we say Project Bluebeam?
Oh, yes, I think we can.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a little orb's going to come up to you and say, halt.
Halt.
Step back immediately or be disintegrated.
Right, exactly. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, Laser-Induced Plasma Effect Program. It's part of the Joint Non-Lethal Weapons Directorate Program to find ways to deter, stun, and basically stop adversaries short of killing them. Using directed energy or lasers includes heating up a target's skin to extremely uncomfortable levels without burning them. Oh, boy.
Only extremely uncomfortable, not that it would cause cancer or anything like that.
No, or give you a interesting rash.
Right. No, it wouldn't do that.
Yeah, interesting. Blasting confusing noises, giving commands such as stop or we'll be forced to fire upon you.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it could pass through glass into a building, yet not penetrate through other solid barriers. So in its initial stages, technology would best be used to protect static areas, such as forward bases or permanent installations.
That's just absolutely, mind-blowing.
So researchers such as Brittany Lyon, a scientist with Naval Information Warfare Center Pacific, are fine-tuning how to pass sound waves through the laser, and they recently completed another round testing in June. Wow, that makes you wonder about this gentleman. This is Serge Monast. So he is the guy that broke out about Project Bluebeam and talked all about it. And, obviously it doesn't look so crazy anymore, does it?
Nope. And how many times have us theorists, crazy theorists, came up with things, and how many times have they come true?
Exactly. So he talked about that and a lot of other things as well. In 1994, Serge Monast, a writer and investigative journalist from Quebec, published an alleged manifesto of sorts explaining this wild theory that has remained infamous in certain circles to this day. So, according to Serge Monast, a 4-step project designed by NASA and the United Nations would allow these organizations to accomplish what he believed to be their ultimate goal of creating a New Age religion led by the Antichrist in order to start a New World Order dictatorship. And so this is part of where I think that we get truth and then we get distortion too. Because we see this is kind of going into effect now. And we see that, there doesn't really have to be a religious aspect to it because they're just doing what they want anyway. So I think that is part of getting people manipulated of a certain mindset. So they'll get up in arms, and then other people will be up in arms of a different mindset. And again, it's always about just keeping us at conflict and never in agreement with each other.
Yeah, that's very important to keep us divided and, tattling on each other. I mean, that's their whole MO, is to make sure that we are tattling on each other, disagreeing with each other, and using our egos as that dividing thing.
As I've shared with you guys, I mean, as a, like around a 20-year-old, 19, 20-year-old kid, I was, listening to Hal Lindsey and Charles Stanley and, I would always be my favorite things to watch were all the, end days, Book of Revelations type stuff. I'd watch that all the time. And I followed Harold Camping, and he wrote a book, I think it was called 1994, thinking that was going to be the second coming. And he had a lot of people convinced that was going to be the second coming. Recognize, too, that Charles Taze Russell, founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, he's of the Russell family, which is a family, of those infamous people where it begins with an I, ends in an I. You got some L's and a U and an M and an I and an N. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to avoid the AI. But you have that whole thing, and the Jehovah's Witnesses were always saying, okay, the world's going to end in whatever, 1920. No, it's going to be 1929. Oh, no, it's going to be 1930 something. No, it's going to be 1940. No, it's going to be, they just constantly push it back. But meanwhile, everybody's feeding into the loosh, and they're feeding into the thought that the world is ending. And, how many people are Jehovah's Witnesses? There's probably, over a million. There's probably millions. And then the founder of the Mormon Church, again, is, these are 33rd degree Masons, these guys, both of them, Charles Taze Russell and also Joseph Smith. So they're 33rd degree Masons, as we've talked about, so is Charles Darwin. So, again, they give us his Darwinian theory of evolution, survival of the fittest, eat or be eaten, kill or be killed. And it makes for the worldview that everything is supposed to always be conflict. Everything is supposed to always be, war, and just, the strong survive. There was that movie we watched recently, Cloud Atlas. That was kind of the moniker of this one person in the movie who goes through several incarnations, and it's a really cool movie because it shows you how souls evolve in some ways. And he went from being basically a real devious, nasty, vile person, and the saying he would say is something like this: "The strong shall eat, and the weak are meat." Very Darwinian. Yet we're given that theory, and it's one of those things. Well, some people will say, "I just don't buy it," and so they throw away the whole thing about evolution in general, because things do evolve. Everything is energy. Energy is constantly changing, evolving, morphing. So things do evolve. But then also, we do see there is creation too. So they always want us to pick black or white, Republican or Democrat. They always want to, Christian or atheist or, whatever it is. they don't want us thinking outside of the box.
Right. No, they definitely don't want us thinking outside the box or thinking for ourselves. They have to put something out there for us to believe in.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, does that mean there's, no Project Bluebeam? No, I think we're seeing evidence that there is a Project Bluebeam. Does that mean that we're going to have a New Age religion forced on us by the Antichrist? Not necessarily. I don't see that. Will there be false messiahs out there? Sure. I view a lot of teachers suspiciously out there. I think we should always and not necessarily buy into any system why not discover the truth for yourself? You're a unique individual. Why not, why do you have to buy into somebody's belief system? Why not just discover your own?
Yeah, and if something talks to you, if something speaks to you, resonates with you, adopt it. It's all good. And then something from a different teaching or something might speak to you, and then adopt that too.
What you just said was basically what Buddha said. That's basically what Buddha had taught. He said, don't believe anything just because your parents taught you, the religious leaders of the day taught you, your teachers taught you. You gotta judge it with both mind and heart, and then either take it or take pieces of it, whatever resonates, and discard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And that's, to me, that seems more natural after I started to wake up to do things that way.
So to me, I see, this whole thing where, like, one of our family members is, believes that Jared Kushner is the Antichrist. And then, see, we always get caught up in thinking, well, who is the Antichrist? Is it Jared Kushner? Is it Obama? Is it Trump? Is it Bush? Who is it? And meanwhile, while we're just going in circles trying to decipher things with the language and the books and things like that they've given us, because they've twisted everything so much that it leads us off into these rabbit holes that go nowhere. Meanwhile, the plans go forward full steam ahead. So NASA would implement the Project Bluebeam, Monast believed, with a system of advanced mind control as well as top secret technology in order to trick everybody into believing there'd been a second coming of sorts. And first, step one would involve the manufacture of artificially created earthquakes in strategic locations around the world. These earthquakes would, according to the conspirators' hoaxes, unearth artifacts indicating that religious doctrines of all nations have been misunderstood for centuries, thus discrediting all religions. Monast claimed that movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey had already laid the psychological groundwork for this step by presenting stories in which mysterious, unearthed objects upend everything humans know about themselves and their world. And the monolith is the thing, and we see that monolith in Washington, D.C. So the second step would involve a gigantic space show. During this stage, three-dimensional optical holograms as well as laser projections of holographic images would beam across the sky. What would these include? Projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna will merge into one, he said. Monast explained the technology behind this display, saying that the conspirators would use space-based laser-generating satellites to project simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and dialect according to the region, and also really the religion when you think about it. As the whole sky is transformed in one massive movie screen, this new god would speak to everyone in their own language. Okay, so, this is exactly, and I wasn't intending on going here, but I will. Let me hand this to Cindy.
Yeah, gosh, what does that tell you? It says a lot. Looking to see what they're doing, the technologies that they can do. And it almost feels like they're trying to do some kind of an override of our natural abilities, maybe.
So this was part of my initial venture into going down a big rabbit hole that eventually led to me discarding the fundamentalist point of view totally, but also not fully embracing everything that we've been taught, but then also recognizing that they are masters of disinfo. So what they do is they get us to discard entire ideas because of an untruth in something that they've twisted. So here you see, this is Share International, and this is Benjamin Creme, which many people will recognize the name. And so how did I get turned onto this? From fundamentalist writings, basically saying that he's ushering in the Antichrist. And so I went deeper and deeper. But then I found that it was interesting because, let me just read this to you. Okay, in the midst of war, fear, and famine, new hope is in the world for us all. Many now expect the return of the awaited teacher, where they call him the Christ, the Messiah, the fifth Buddha, Krishna, or the Imam Mahdi. Millions now know that the one who fulfills all these expectations, Maitreya, the world teacher, is already living amongst us and is gradually emerging into full public recognition. Maitreya is the teacher for all humanity, those of all spiritual traditions, and those who would follow no particular faith. He does not come as a religious leader, but as an educator in the broadest sense. And Maitreya has not come alone, but with a group of wise men, the masters of wisdom, who have long worked from behind the scenes as the inspirers, teachers, and guides of humanity. They are returning to the everyday world to help us solve our most critical global problems. So Maitreya and the masters will show us that the only way to bring about peace is to create justice, and the only way to establish justice is to share the resources of the world equitably amongst all humanity according to need. Maitreya has formulated a number of simple priorities that demand immediate and worldwide attention. These cover the essential needs of every man, woman, and child, an adequate supply of food, housing for all, access to health care, and education as universal rights. Another top priority is the restoration of the environment. Maitreya will inspire us to create a new civilization based on sharing, justice, freedom, and peace, so that all may have basic necessities of life in a world free from want and war. He and the masters are here to show us the way forward, but they can only guide. We ourselves have to act and to save the world. And Maitreya has been based in the Asian community of London since July 1977, gradually emerging into full public view. And there were a few pictures of him, and he can look different to different people as well. And I just wanted to share this because, this was what the fundamentalists were saying is going to be the Antichrist. And when, you look at it, everything is so twisted. So, obviously, Benjamin Creme thought he was going to come out a long time ago. And, here it is 43 years later, and he's still not out there. But what we read here does go along really, really well with what he's talking about here. Serge Monast, so projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha will merge into one, and people will hear it in their own language. That's exactly the same stuff.
Looks pretty parallel to me.
Isn't it? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if I've ever shared all this with you, have I?
I don't think so. Not all of it, no.
Okay. Yeah, so, this is fascinating because also what happens at the end of every time we have a major destruction. If you look at Mother Shipton's prophecies, a silver ship comes in with humanoid beings. They're not exactly human, and they teach us how to live properly and in harmony with the earth again, and they help us to rebuild in a better way. What happens, in pretty much all these cultures, the Hopi beliefs as well, return of the Star Brothers and Sisters. We've talked about that with Cherokee and with the South Dakota Lakota tribe as well. There's all of them. We could go over to Africa and talk about them as well. And we've covered that. So what are they doing here? Well, here they're setting us up, and there are going to be those people that believe that, probably that the benevolent are going to be the malevolent. And I do think that the militarization of space and what we see going on with the militarization of space, the Space Force, which the secret space program has been there a long time. Again, who runs this world? Well, when Jesus encountered the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the religious leaders of this day, he said they were serving their father, the evil one, and they didn't recognize him. So again, would people recognize a true benevolent higher being?
Well, we don't really know exactly.
Yeah, I think that you'll have people that are very, very locked into their belief systems that will be just like the Jews of the day that would want to go and stone and demand crucify him.
Yes, they would, and not knowing any better.
Exactly, and that's what I feel that the fundamentalists are being set up for. And again, it's another case of, well, what have we gotten from that mindset throughout the ages? Well, we've gotten witch burnings. We've gotten the Crusades, conquering people in the sign of the cross from Constantine. He is the founder, truly, of the Catholic Church. It was Constantine, the Emperor of Rome, who murdered his wife and first child to maintain power. A bloodthirsty emperor, and he's revered as a saint in Catholic circles. He's no saint. He slaughtered thousands that would not conform to his orthodox system of belief. And then we've seen, bless you, Zeke, Zeke sneezing. We've seen millions of people that were native to the Americas slaughtered as, the machine came in. And we shouldn't just blame it on Europeans. We shouldn't blame it on any race or anything. It's a mindset. It's a political structure that's doing this. It's a hierarchy that says that they are given power from above by divine right, because they believe they are the offspring of some of these, beings that are not from Earth, but who rule the Earth.
Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that they tell me is, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get what you always got.
Exactly. So, this is just getting into all this stuff, and it's more confirmation. And, Serge Monast, he homeschooled because he didn't want the kids in the school system. And as we'll read right here, this is an excerpt from a book that was talking about him. Serge Monast has died of a heart attack. This man has faithfully exposed the NWO for the last decade. His children were homeschooled, so the authorities took his 8-year-old daughter away. Then his 7-year-old son was taken, as they said the parents were abusing them emotionally by stopping the children going to state school. The father was then arrested, spent the night in jail. Next day at home, he had a heart attack. Now this says he was 46 years old. Another source said 51. It's kind of young for a heart attack.
It's extremely young for a heart attack.
So this brave man has left a wife who now has no family. So it's a sad thing. Here's Wiki, and Wiki says he was 51. Interesting, but undoubtedly, and he was an active member of the Social Credit Party of Canada. But he talked all about the NWO and secret societies, and supposedly he was the inspiration for Mel Gibson in conspiracy theory. And so, what does that mean? Does that mean that because perhaps he met a foul end because of spilling the truth on some things, but yet he seemed to be kind of fundamentalist in some of his viewpoints? Again, it's a twisted world, and all the truth is twisted, because it doesn't mean that there's no aliens. It doesn't mean there's no interdimensional beings, and it doesn't mean that they're all demons or angels. We see here Scarlett Moffat claims that she was abducted by aliens when she was 10. There's been a lot of celebrities that have come out and admitted these type of things. And when we talk about that, there's so many people that have experienced sleep paralysis, and Cindy can attest to it. And Cindy's only gotten over it since we've been together.
Yeah, it's about actually a lot of raising of the vibration, and I've still had a couple occurrences, but it's not like it used to be.
Yeah. So this is very, very common. There have been, I would venture to say, there's been millions of people, that have been abducted, and it's always about DNA. It's always about genetic lineage. It's about experiments going on. For those of you that have followed people like, there's so many of them, out there. J. Allen Hynek, we see Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, of course, Corey Good, David Wilcock. It goes on and on and on. Phil Schneider. There's so many people that have come out. Bob Lazar, talking, that have been in the know, and they've been right in the middle of these programs, and they say that, aliens are real. There really are deep underground military bases. They interact, with our governments. There's certain deals with the governments that are in place. Laura Eisenhower, and, her granddad there, right? Dwight, he's the one that, supposedly signed a deal with the Greys, and, which the Nazis were connected to the Greys and the Nords and the reptilians as well. So, there's a lot more to this. Yes, there definitely are extraterrestrials and beings that can manipulate their molecular structure so that they can move freely between different densities.
Yeah, they can. They're so far advanced, and a lot of it is, it's a technology.
So, well, why do we feel so sure of this? It's because we've experienced it, and like, for instance, in December 2017, 4 months after starting the first channel, I woke up to this face, after feeling something energetically go into my lower stomach. And, what I got from Cindy in doing her work was that they were sabotaging my my chakras, my lower dantian, creating a leak that would enable me to get sick with red tide later on, because energetically I was extremely strong before they screwed with me there. And so they do watch, and it wasn't the first time I've had encounters, because it's a regular thing for me, my son, my daughter. And I believe my father too. He never really spoke too much in detail. He was very, very Catholic and brought up that way. He went through Catholic school, from start to finish. And yet he said aliens are real, and and UFOs are real. And yet he still, was a believer in Christ and everything. But he knew, and he never really wanted to say much, and I'm the only one he ever confided in. He never would tell anybody because he was very, very quiet and reserved person. But yeah, these beings are real, and we've seen them out, like, following us around.
They're very real, and I do catch them. I don't know what the thing is with the corner of the eye, but I do see them.
Most definitely. And as I've shared, both my son and daughter, in fact, many times they went through night terrors, and would have to end up staying and sleeping with us. And I went through the same thing, with seeing these different beings. And Cindy has seen these.
Yeah, those are nasty. And they have a nasty energy, a very fearful, distrusting, deceitful, thick energy.
Obviously, this is a Draco. And so when I was 7, I woke up and saw a guy that looked like this right next to my bed. He looked very much like this face, pretty much exactly. And, that was the first time I remember seeing one, right next to me. But we've had other experiences too, like up at Shasta. We were drawn to Shasta, and this is a Dhamma of Telos. And Telos is a 5D city inside the mountain that is inhabited by Lemurians. So these are Lemurians that escaped and went into the inner earth. And that's why I also believe that Lemuria was a 5D civilization, and that we've gone backwards, as far as evolving. We've de-evolved in ways instead of evolved. But now, because the main thing that we are faced with right now is a beautiful thing of ascension, because of the energy that's coming in truly from Source Creator, that is going to set things right and start to bring us back onto a golden age, turning on our DNA. And that's why the dark side is doing what they can to stop it in every way, shape, and form. But we have had some encounters with these type of beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a different energy altogether. They're large and peaceful, and you just feel this blanket of protection over you when they're around.
And currently, we are working with beings of this sort, so more like the Pleiadian energies. And there's one female that Cindy has been channeling through, and it turns out to be the same entity that first appeared in my mind's eye, I'd say about 5 years ago. And 5 years ago was really a key time for me too in my life, because that's when I started to become a full-time healer.
Yeah, and these guys just, they want to have us get into a little bit of preparation as far as preparing your soul for change.
So guys, I want to make sure you are subscribed to both of our channels on YouTube while YouTube is still functioning as it is, and let you guys know we are on BitChute as EEARTS, and we are on Brightian as Evolutionary Energy Arts. So we're on both of those as well, so you could get us there if anything ever happened. And then of course we have the two channels on YouTube, EEARTS and Evolutionary Energy Arts. Thank you guys so much for your support, and Ko-Fi and Patreon has really helped us to survive. Without that, we would not be able to keep going with what we're doing. And so, and that is so important to us, to keep going with the messages out there and to try to let people know exactly what's going on, because it's very, very convoluted.
Yeah, we do, and you guys do allow us to continue to get the word out to other people and help other people understand that what you're seeing, what you're feeling, that it's not because you're crazy, it's because you know things, and we want to try to keep you healthy and feeling secure and just understand that you're not alone. We want to keep doing that. So thank you so much for your support.
Yes, guys. As always, God bless and namaste.
God bless and namaste.